Hi YouTube, welcome to another edition of HorrorHands, and for this video I'm going to be talking about the Legend of Bigfoot. So this is a very low budget, kind of like pseudo documentary from 1976 about this guy who, he's like an animal tracker and a general man of the wilderness. And he presents and narrates this documentary where he is in search of Bigfoot. He finds a bit of evidence of Bigfoot out and about, so he finds out some footprints and some fur, and then he catches a glimpse of the creature in the forest and sort of takes some shaky camera footage of the creature. He then sends it to the experts, the scientists, who they want more evidence, which he seems to take real offence to. He's sort of like, they wanted more evidence. They wanted me to find out where it went, and what it ate, and what it did. I had no time for this scientific nonsense. And I'm kind of thinking, well, no, that's a reasonable thing to ask. But nevertheless, it sends him on this quest to find Bigfoot, and it's all really silly, to be honest. The problem is his theory and his attempt to find the creature is so illogical and so kind of contradictory and so full of massive assumptions that you just can't really take it seriously. For example, he'll see a bunch of geese flying off up north, and then he'll suddenly make the assumption that Bigfoot is doing the same thing and that Bigfoot's a migratory animal. So he'll like travel across America, you know, on this whim, and then still end up finding evidence of Bigfoot and getting the odd occasional footage of him in the forest. And it's just crazy, really. And then it takes a real bizarre turn when he visits these kind of like Indian people who believe that Bigfoot is a spiritual entity that takes the form of a white raven. And then we get this sort of really bizarre, sort of psychedelic kind of thing going on where we see this Bigfoot spirit floating around. And then, of course, the next morning he sees a white raven flying over, so, of course, his theory is correct once again. And then he sort of deduces that he needs to go somewhere else because he's worked out where Bigfoot's breeding ground is, and again, that turns out to be correct. It's just wild assumptions that seem to drive him on. And all this is kind of filled in with kind of stock footage of wildlife and scenery and things like that. So, yeah, altogether, just a little bit silly. I think the problem with this one is something about the guy and the way he attempts to find Bigfoot. He's just asking to be debunked. And because a lot of what he says just makes no sense whatsoever, it's easy to find fault and to find plot holes, and it's all just a little bit face-palming. There were some things that I did like about it. I actually like the non-Bigfoot parts of this film, and I like just the scenes of the wildlife and the stock footage and the really, really beautiful scenery of the places that he travels to. It's a little bit like a Mondo film, but without the unpleasantness, without the death and the poaching and the bizarre rituals. So in that sense, it's quite a decent, quite a pleasant watch. But overall, just very, very silly and just at times a bit strange. I think if you really want to watch a good Bigfoot documentary, I highly recommend The Legend of Boggy Creek, which is still a very low budget film that's sort of filmed out in the sticks, but just seems to be a bit more plausible and a bit more riveting than what Legend of Bigfoot is. In terms of the movie itself, I don't believe it has its own release. I have it as part of this Bigfoot triple feature, which I got from America. And in terms of the UK, I don't think this movie was ever released over here. I might be wrong, correct me if I am, but I don't believe it's ever made its way to the UK, which may give you an indication of the quality of this movie. I watched I watched this with a buddy of mine who actually said something which, for me, perfectly sums up how this movie kind of makes you feel. And he said I actually believed in Bigfoot until I watched this documentary. So, yeah, take from that what you will. But let me know if you've seen this and let me know what you thought. Thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for more videos.